Hi, friends. I'm Andy Green, and today we're talking about making decisions because this is the Naked Man Podcast. For as long as I can remember, I've had trouble making decisions. I'm indecisive around a menu, always asking the server or bartender for their opinions, hoping they can live my life for me. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I was indecisive picking a college too, waiting until the last day. I'd even signed my acceptance letter to the University of Washington. But on that last day, in a fit of I need to leave home and comfort zone energy, I crumpled it up, threw it in the trash can, and sent out my acceptance to Ithaca College. I was all better now, right? Nope. Once in upstate New York, I was then indecisive about picking a major. I went to a school all the way across the country, 4.5 hours away from New York City, for sport management. But it only took a couple of hours of accounting before I second-guessed everything. I even applied to transfer to other universities, even gaining acceptance to USC's film business program. Instead, I stayed at Ithaca and switched majors to something that allowed more freedom and range of study. Looking back now, it's pretty hilarious to worry about majors at all in the world we live in, but we were taught that that decision mattered and dictated the rest of our lives. No wonder it was hard to choose. This story of me being indecisive is one that I've inherited from my mom, a fellow indecisive person. Even after planning to write this today, it took me about an hour to redecide to devote my day to doing this. It's becoming clear to me that my indecision is my anxiety. It connects to the overwhelming desire to try and do everything, try and see everything, to be all things to all people. It is why so many people have responded to my scripts with the note, "There's 2 movies in here. Why choose one when I can make 2? Why order 1 beer when I can order a flight? What if I miss the best beer, the best cut of meat, the best life has to offer?" My anxiety is fed by the overwhelming knowledge that there is no certainty in this life. The only thing I know is how much I don't know. But even so, I don't make awful decisions. I'm just not kind to myself in the process. It's always so hard, painstaking, and unclear. Each decision conveniently prepackaged with self-doubt and second-guessing for now and for later. And there's legitimate reasons for why I live in this state of mind. Because I breached trust with myself when I was younger. Yes, here's the part of the podcast where I refer you to my DUI. Because I lost myself and who I was and wanted to be, I have a hard time trusting that I now know what's best for me. I live in self-criticism. I'm never enough or I am too much. I focus on the negatives, the problems. I worry about failure and making mistakes rather than learning from them. At my worst, I think I'm just bad or not good enough to do the things that I want or be the person I want to be. Imposter syndrome takes hold and convinces me that I'm actually lying to myself about my talents, my heart, and that I'm really just a piece of shit, still the toxic young man who just needs validation in unhealthy ways. Over the last year, however, I've become proud of how hard I work, how hard I try, and how much I care. My indecision comes from giving a shit. It comes from my curiosity and desire to learn, to explore my passions, which feel limitless. While I wish I didn't spend so much time on regret, imagining it, or reliving it, I am proud of my introspection, my willingness to investigate past mistakes, to learn from myself. This led me to the realization that decision-making is yet another frontier to explore, to question. So there I was on a stroll with my friend Adriana in Griffith Park, walking her dog Gizmo. This was the first time we'd ever hung out aside from a group function or an episode of Movies with Friends. By the end of our friend date, Adriana had given me a lead. She had gotten a lot of help from her coach and now friend, Kirsten Parker, in the harsh land of decision-making. Kirsten teaches a Decision Masters course, and it was clear to Adriana from only an hour or so with me in my overthinking, oversaturated with ideas brain that I might benefit from Kirsten's help. And what do you know? Kirsten was offering free consultations. Sure, the cynic in me wants to say, wow, life is all just one big advertisement, isn't it? And I'm now repeating that. But I've learned enough to take these kinds of invitations from the universe seriously, especially when they feel like this one did. So I booked a consultation, and after that hour, I knew I needed to take the class. But it cost money that I didn't really have, and I, of course, had doubts. Do I just want this woman to do my life for me? Yes, I do, but that's not what this is. Am I searching for a simple solution to a complex problem? Maybe. I now found myself in a vulnerable and ironic position. I had to make a decision about whether or not I could afford or deserve or needed to take a class on decisions. I mean, and the very existence of which, I imagine, elicits many eye rolls outside of Los Angeles. Similar to how I thought of therapy and then anxiety meds, I realized that this was another act of self-care. I needed help, and I'd found a person willing and excited to help me. Kirsten loves decisions like I love movies. This was an investment in myself, in my work, in my health. By agreeing to take this course, I was admitting that I deserve help and continuing to take my shit seriously. To create what I want to create is hard enough as it is without me making it so much harder every step of the way. Choosing this decision class was and is choosing me, legitimizing myself as a creator and a business. That process began in our intake session when Kirsten gave me all-important homework. What are my core values? What are the most meaningful, important things to me right now? An important caveat is that these core values can change. They are what are important to me now, in this particular season of Andy's life. These were Kirsten's words, not mine, by the way, which is another sign that I was going to get along with this woman. And I expected this task of coming up with core values to take forever, but I wasn't giving myself enough credit. I apparently do know what's important to me. My core values are honesty, accountability, curiosity, and connection, or hack. When those values clicked into place, I found myself immediately filtering the nearly infinite projects I have in various states of development through those values and ranking them. Have you ever heard a more Andy sentence than that? I don't know if there is one. And I found the ones I was most excited about were the ideas that satisfied all four of my values, and there was a clear through line between these projects. The projects that I was struggling with or procrastinating on or confused about, here was a reason. They didn't adhere to the core values of me right now. In tandem with these core values that I have written on a beer coaster clipped to my wall in front of me, Kirsten also challenged me to come up with a vision statement for myself. Who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? For so long, and parts of every single day, including today, I question what I'm doing, who I am. I question my worthiness, my ability, my selfish desires, my ambitions. Do I deserve any of this? This is the first project I've created where I've forced myself to share with friends and family because before this, I didn't believe I was worthy of someone else's most valuable resource, time. As the world crumbles around me, I often think I should be helping in a much more tangible way. Nobody needs another writer. I should be a firefighter. I should drop everything and protest at Standing Rock or whatever the freshest crisis is, and there's been about 33 since that one. I should be a teacher like Lily. I should have gone to medical school. I still could go. Wait, I should be a therapist. Should takes over, the word that I'm trying to remove from my vocabulary because it is always so laced with judgment. But this time my vision statement came surprisingly quickly, although it took nearly 34 years before I could commit to it. My vision statement is to help people and the world by embracing my truest, fullest self. It still makes me wince a little to even say that out loud, out of embarrassment. All this sounds woo-woo, but all that matters is what I put into it and what I get out of it. And to me, this was and is huge. Here I am admitting that the only way I can help, the only way I can contribute to the world is to be myself. And it's only in the last year that I've realized that I am an artist. It took me a long, long time to admit to myself and other people that I was a writer. I took years before moving to Los Angeles to pursue a career in it. Even afterwards, I would apologize for it. I would undercut myself. I would say shit like, I want to be a writer, rather than I am a writer. The only thing you have to do to be a writer is write, and I've done that in a wide variety of fashions for as long as I can remember. That it took me so long to latch onto the identity of writer, to commit and own that identity, made it that much harder to relinquish. Until recently, any day that went by when I didn't write, I was a failure. I wasn't being myself. I was lying to myself. But I wasn't. I just had accepted a narrow-minded point of view of my talents and my passions and what I can do. Traveling, exploring, meeting people, performing, hosting, creating, these are all part of me too. This new identity, this new vision statement allowed so much more freedom and flexibility. This new identity was truer. It's not an accident that my first identity as a kid was, as Kyle and I discussed in the first episode of this show, a drawer. But to me, it felt like an artist had to be someone in the purely visual sense, like a painter or illustrator. But that was my limited imagination adding rules and boundaries where there didn't need to be any. So now, here I am, armed with my core values and a vision statement. So with every decision I make from now on, from whether I should start an LLC, go get a drink with a friend, or go on a hike, those can all be funneled through this lens. Does it serve me? I would be lying if I said I've been able to always do this, or even do that more than 50% of the time. By which I mean, slow down, stop, and consider every hard decision. But I'm practicing. That's why I'm sharing this. That's why I've undoubtedly already told this story in some way to several of you. I'm rewriting the story I believed about myself to become someone I want to be. My whole life I've been trying to push 27 different boulders up 27 different mountains at the same time. Sisyphus can eat shit. Unsurprisingly, everything moved painfully slowly or not at all. Felt like I had to start from scratch every single day. This was a manifestation of my indecision. I couldn't choose what I wanted to do. I couldn't choose between my ideas. I love all my ideas. They are my children, and I can't pick favorites. But what this really meant was that I was terrified I'd commit to the wrong idea, or rather, that there actually was a right one, a right path, a no-doubt choice to be had in a certain order this all had to go by. After all, I am a storyteller, so I naturally want my own story to be exciting, interesting, and follow some sort of narrative structure. Wouldn't that be nice? Plus, I was and am deeply afraid of failure. I've long bemoaned an inability to commit to a project, to be all in, even wondering what that even meant or looked like. It felt like most stories about successful, famous artists, and those are in quotes, those stories required said artists to denounce everything for their craft, even and especially love, and that has always felt like bullshit to me. Art is impossible without love. So, not wanting to commit, I didn't choose. I tried to do as many things as I could at once, all the while feeling like I didn't do or accomplish anything, feeling guilty whenever I played hooky or took a break. Again, progress isn't linear, hardly anything is, but you couldn't convince me of that. This was my fault. I had to be better and do better. It was as simple as that. Kirsten's next homework assignment for me was to choose just 3 projects in addition to the projects I was already in the middle of to add to my workload. This proved to be harder than coming up with core values and a vision statement. It was somehow harder to commit to what projects to pursue than to come up with the DNA of who I want to be. I was only able to narrow it down to a list of 5 and didn't feel quite right about the results of the work. After all, I didn't actually do it. I wasn't able to choose 3. And it wasn't until our first group Zoom class that I realized why. I don't need to add any more projects to my workload. Oh, I'm already doing too much. The only way I can make these projects as good as they can be and deserve to be is to focus on them, to give the most of myself to them that I can. I have to make priorities every day because I only have so much energy to give. So I didn't add any more projects. I doubled down on the 4 projects I'm already working on, not 27. I have to trust that those other projects will still be there when I'm ready for them. If anything, perhaps those projects are better served for a different season of Andy, when I might have different core values. It's no accident that after nearly a decade of hemming and hawing about creating an LLC for myself and my writing, that I started an LLC after only a couple sessions with Kirsten. After some patented indecision about the name, I went with Be Green, a shorter version of my vision statement, Be Myself. Now that self is always changing and will always change, but some part of that self will also always stay the same, because I've realized that I tricked myself. Yes, I was able to choose 4 projects. How powerful am I? But the last couple of months have made it clear that those 4 projects represent a nearly infinite number of projects under their umbrella. But perhaps tricking my brain is part of the point. Everything felt more manageable because I made my priorities known and felt, and then it became more manageable. Now, it's still hard, and I still find myself in that familiar feeling of overwhelm and what do I do right now? But when I'm present enough to notice I'm in that place, I stop. I breathe, I lay on the bed, close my eyes, and see what comes. Almost always, it's what I want to do. Oftentimes, I fall asleep, which is what I needed to do. One of my favorite mantras that I've adopted from Kirsten is this: if it was supposed to be easy, it would be easy. Nothing that I'm trying to do, nothing that we're trying to do is easy. This is hard, and for so long, when confronted with a hard decision, I would ruminate over it, running my mind over the problem, going over the same thoughts and ideas over and over again, clinging to the belief that somehow I'd unlock the capital A answer and have certainty. I just wasn't thinking hard enough, or I wasn't smart enough to see the truth that had to be there, right in front of my eyes. I would get hung up on the logistics, the how this project would happen and come to be. Because there isn't a recipe for what I'm trying to create, I don't know how. And it's natural for my brain to want to save me from the pain of failing, of the unknown, of the possibility that I can't do this. No matter how long I think about it, I won't know the real how until I'm done. And I'm just getting started. Thank you all for listening. I'm at the beginning of this decision-making journey, and I imagine I'll be sharing much more in the future, like it or not. But more than anything with this, I just wanted to express my gratitude to Kirsten. Thank you, Kirsten, for your help. And thank you, Adriana, for sending me those breadcrumbs. There's more information on Kirsten and her program in the episode description. And if you like what I'm doing, if you like what you're hearing, do me a favor. Join my Patreon, join this community, and be part of the conversation. Be empowered in where this show goes from here. Since last we spoke, the Patreon has debuted, the Wanderers Union Discord has been established, and our new bi-weekly newsletter, Wanderings, has begun. Issue number 2 arrives this Friday. The Patreon link is in the description, or it can be found at patreon.com/begreen, BEGREENE. If you can't afford to donate but want to get involved, not to worry. I understand. Reach out to me and I'll invite you to our Discord and our newsletter. The best way to get this show out there is to rate and subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tell everyone. It would mean a lot to me. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at NakedManPod, and don't hesitate to reach out to us at nakedmanpod@gmail.com. If you have any thoughts and feelings you'd like to share, such as a decision perhaps that you're having trouble with in this moment, call and leave a message at the Naked Man phone line at 747-231-7120. Next time on the Naked Man podcast, we have another exciting interview. And in the meantime, as my dad always says, be sweet. This episode of the Naked Man podcast was conceived by Andy Green. The Naked Man is a podcast hosted, created, and produced by me, Andy Green. All music was composed by Robert Panico, and all graphics were created by Christopher Miles.